many, many positives I can get out of this game.
Just listen. Just listen.
That's a fact.
You like that?
Oh, good.
Come on!
Yes!
And boom, 9 to noon is in the air. Good morning. It's Paul Allen by your side. And 9 to noon today begins with a... We begin with a howl. And our favorite basketball team making some memories last night.
12-point Timberwolves lead. Ball on the move. Left to the lane. Drives in. The layup, he missed it. Looked like Jaden was going to contest it. Then he backed away. Here's the end of the move. The front court. Right side. He'll stop. Pop. Right angle three. Got it. 29 for Edwards. He knocks down his 6th three of the game.
Anthony putting on a show last night, showing off for the kind of big, I guess adequate Charlotte throng down a Charlotte way as the Timberwolves beat the Hornets last night. Now, old Dante DiVincenzo took him a little while to get going, but the Inferno eventually was quite hot.
Now Ant drives away from them. In the paint. Out to Dante. Deep three. Left side. Yes. Seals the deal. Dante DiVincenzo, 4 of 5 from long range. Wolves now have 21 made threes tonight.
9 to noon.
Jaden McDaniels scored how many points?
Whoa, turnaround jumper for Jaden. 14-footer drops. 13 of 19, shooting 29 points. Jaden McDaniels popping on a three. It's Nick Smith Jr. No good off the heel. Curry with a rebound. Fires a straightaway three. He missed that one. Rebound out of bounds. Timberwolves basketball.
Oh, howl. I don't know if the voice is ready for a howl. You got one in you over there, Matt, producer? Ooh, that was nice. Ooh. Now we got dogs and cats and anteaters and aardvarks running our way, sensing the call of the howl. LaMelo Ball is such a tough watch. He's so erratic. LaMelo Ball, man, I mean, this whole Ball situation started by the father LeVar, and then you got Lonzo, or the skeletal remains thereof. And LaMelo is the younger of the kids and then was supposed to potentially be the best of all of them. What an erratic basketball player. He's a very, very difficult player to watch. But it's not bad watching LaMelo Ball when he's on the L side of an equation like he was last night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And with the Charlotte Hornets, what an awful deal they have down there. Holy cow. Nobody knows who their coach is. The identity of their franchise is erratic. Potentially their best player, Brandon Miller, is out for the year. And you got Mark Williams toppling in Karl Anthony Towns-like fashion and always being on the ground. It's a bad deal down there. But that's their lot in life. What is our lot in life? The Timberwolves were on a back-to-back and didn't mess around with a bad team. That was really, really cool. Crushing them early and never letting them up. Julius Randle nearly had a triple-double. Had a really cool interview after the game on TV with Grady and Jim Peterson, where I've seen several Julius Randle interviews this year, and this is the first one that I've seen. And you know, I don't pretend to be, you know, I'm on the sideline of a game, and I looked in my man's eyes, and I can just tell his countenance is that of chagrin, or he's being deceptive, or he's being overly jubilant. I'm not that person, but like listening to Julius Randle and him talk about how much he missed being with the Minnesota Timberwolves the month he was down, gave himself a day, he said, to like sulk about it, but then working on things and having a chance to analyze things with his role on the team while he was away, and then to come back and help the way he's helped. I mean, that right there in its own right, that deserves a howl.
Is it too much to say that he looks kind of like a different player even than prior to going down from the standpoint? Because with Julius Randle,
he's key.
We're excited statistically that he nearly ripped off a triple-double. But I will be honest that I know Julius Randle can do those sorts of things. So is it the consistency? It's the energy, looking engaged, being engaged ultimately that leads to production last night. That may have been a question 40 days ago, PA. But now that we're seeing him back, short sample size, of course, but I've loved what I've seen from Julius.
Well, I put this on Twitter last night while watching the game. They had so much joy. Now playing a team that you should beat 9.5 out of 10 times, no matter if you arrive at a team hotel at 4:30 in the morning because of weather terrorism, that should lead to joy. Beating teams should lead to joy. But there were runs in that game. The Charlotte Hornets, man. I mean, that was the first inkling of a team that I've seen that is just begging for the finish line. We just want this thing to be over, man. I mean, Naz Reid came streaking down the key, and LaMelo Ball just, I mean, let's put it this way. If Bill Laimbeer or Rick Mahorn were watching, they wouldn't be blushing. Yeah. Because LaMelo's team was getting killed, and it was Olay. It was Olay right to the basket for the slam dunk. They're not engaged. They're not trying defensively. They're pulling up from 25 and 30, and they don't care if they go in. So more on that momentarily because it actually plays into what's coming at us. But with Julius, he had joy. And what I like is when Anthony Edwards is not in the game, he is so uber supportive of Julius Randle becoming the identity of a game. I mean, it's because Anthony's the best player on the team. And to the point that you made, I don't know if I would say there was lack of engagement. I just think there was because he's you have to be engaged in these games unless you play for the Charlotte Hornets and then nobody cares. But the engagement I felt was there. The cohesiveness of figuring out where to go, when, and why, and how come I've shot 3 times in a row, and now you've shot 6 times in a row? How are we going to get stifle the ball when his back's okay? What about McDaniels? I mean, Jaden McDaniels spread his metaphorical wings last night, and to hear Julius talk about Jaden McDaniels after the game, I mean, it's almost like it took the veteran's breath away. I think Grady or Pete asked about Jaden McDaniels and the big night he had last night. Jaden was as good offensively last night as I've ever seen him in his life. And Julius looked at Jaden as he was walking by, and he's like, man, paraphrasing, he's so talented. I mean, it's almost like I haven't seen anything like this. He's just so gifted. And when he's able to spread his wings the way he did tonight, we need that so badly. So I just sense through three games they've won. Now, 2 of the 3, they've beaten legitimately awful teams. Phoenix is enigmatic, and it's teetering on, we just want this season to end.
Yeah, that's not good down there.
It ain't good. But they got Booker and KD. So you got to pay attention to that. And they can get sneaky if you're not engaged. But to hear Julius talk about the importance of Jaden McDaniels and to know what came together last night and the last few games with Julius hurt and Rudy Gobert down, Dante DiVincenzo down, it's McDaniels had to morph into something consistently that, quite honestly, hasn't been there. It's been good, and then at times it's been okay, but, I mean, it was all-star-esque last night. Now, that's against the Charlotte Hornets. You're at Miami on Friday. And the caveat here off the game last night with Jaden McDaniels' offense being as good as we've seen and the joy within the Covenant being absolutely as high-end as I've seen all season. And it came to fruition and led me to the X machine when Dante DiVincenzo just turned around and hurled one up in front of his bench. So you got all his dogs behind him. Just hurled one up from 28 and it went in. And, I mean, the kids went nuts. And there was a timeout. Like, Edwards runs out on the court and, wants to bear hug him. So to win at a high level, obviously you need to have the right components from a talent standpoint. And the Timberwolves do, specifically when they get Stifle back. When Stifle Tower returns. And with him, I don't know if I heard this the other night at the Philly game or it was on TV or radio last night, but Rudy's ramping up like the work he's doing in practice.
Yeah.
So the guess is Rudy Gobert is relatively or maybe incredibly close to returning. But see, with a win like last night, is given the Hornets don't care about stopping you, there is some fool's gold with that dub last night. And you got to be straight with it because we only have 18 games to play. And the LA Clippers won a game last night led by James Harden, who had like 50, where they were on a back-to-back. They were down Kawhi Leonard. They've been down a week and a half with one of their best scorers, Norman Powell. And whether it's James Harden or Ivica Zubac.
Oh, Zubac.
Yeah. I mean,
big man.
He's never played better. I have a lot of respect for that team, man. I mean, because they're pushing through some things right now due to injuries because they don't want to be in the play-in either. And they're a game behind us. I mean, this thing's jumbled up with 18 games to go. But now at Miami Friday for the How, the Heat care about playing defense. All right. Eric Spoelstra, their coach, is high end. And the Heat is a playoff team. Now, they played Cleveland right down to the wire last night. Cleveland might be in the NBA Finals. And they were down Tyler Hero. And Jimmy Butler was traded to the Warriors a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks and change ago. So tomorrow night is a new rubber meets the road moment for the Minnesota Timberwolves because it's on the road. And they arrived at Miami probably shortly after midnight, maybe 2 a.m. I mean, now the kid's got a full day in Miami. Kid's got a full day in South Beach. And then another day before that, up to the game. And distractions can become the ultimate equalizer. Not saying it's going to happen, but I mean, there ain't much to do in Charlotte, and there's a lot to do in Miami. So the Heat care about playing defense. That, for me, when I'm watching the game, is, all right, so Jaden was able to get off against this awful quitting Hornets team. What's he able to do against a team with significant defensive structure? And I bring up Jaden because Anthony explodes on everybody. Julius has been a consistent offensive player all of his career. The single biggest key between like Edwards and Randall as the team moves down the stretch and tries to establish itself in the right playoff spot is just it's continuity in knowing what's best and when. So like Julius may go pounding the ball, free throw line extended in the business, we call it the elbow. And if he draws a double, he has to know, I got to hit Jaden in the corner or I got to find Ant. And it's got to be fast.
Yeah.
So it's got to, lickety split, man. We got to go lickety split here. It all has to be lickety split now. Because when you draw that double, you kick it out to Ant. That means somebody's running at him. And when players run at Edwards and they don't get set defensively, they have no chance. I mean, he'll either jab step back and hit from 25, or he'll streak down the key and posterize you. So Randall is drawing doubles because his offensive game is just so solid, specifically free throw line in. And McDaniels is just, we ain't breaking news here, but McDaniels, his offensive productivity is so very key to this team finishing the right way the final 18 games. You feel me on that?
No, I feel you on that. I will say, Jaden McDaniels, this wouldn't be the first time that we've gone down this road of if we can get.
Yeah.
Now, we don't need 29 every night.
That's fair.
There's no doubt about that. But he'll be 6 of 8 with 3 or 4 triples in a game. You get he's 3-4 steal type of night, and the world is his oyster. And then maybe the next night he's 1 of 9 and might get to the line for a couple of free throws or something like that. So the consistency with Jaden offensively, don't need 29, but definitely, as to your point, for this team to
that's the continuity
find itself. Yes, that would be the continuity.
See, like, I don't know Jaden McDaniels, and again, I'm not going to look at a face and read whether he's frustrated or whatever. I'm going to guess this.
I don't think he'd show you, by the way.
But
very stoic.
But extremely. But see, it just feels to me when you have players like Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, and adversaries throughout the season when Jaden has big games saying, this guy's unbelievable. I mean, he's Gumby.
Yeah.
His arms go from Maui to Maine. He'll dunk on you. He's pretty good from 3. He blocks shots. He had some really good blocks last night. But like when Randall, and this is key, when Randall and Edwards get into ball hog mode, okay, and it's tough for me to say they shouldn't be shooting 18-ish, 16-ish times. Well, Anthony should be shooting 20 to 25 times every game.
I agree.
And Randall needs to be a 16 or higher because he gets to the foul line and he draws contact next to the rim better than Edwards because Edwards isn't really a post kind of guy. So if McDaniels ain't getting his touches, I'm just wondering, this is a good question for Finchy next week. I just wonder if McDaniels goes into a little bit of a shell and then how do you pull one out of a shell if they're like, let me get this straight. I read this thing on Twitter that Anthony Edwards, somebody interviewed him. He said all these nice things about me. And I saw this interview back on Twitter, and Julius Randle just basically made me sound like a combo platter between the late Dennis Johnson, Joe Dumars, and James Worthy. Yet we've gone a quarter and a half, and I can't get a touch.
Right.
I mean, but that's legitimate stuff in basketball.
Well, and you look at it last night, and somebody I'm sure that saw the game more closely than I did, pretty sure Jaden had 5 of their first 7 points last night. And so getting a guy like that involved early, is that part of that conversation then? It's tough to necessarily game plan. And as you mentioned, it's not just full game volume. If you're going to have a guy that's taken his first shot within the first 2 possessions,
yep,
Anthony Edwards might be that guy, right? Like, let's get the big dog going, and then we will complement. But on a night last night, when you look at that 29-point explosion and then everything else that went along with it, with his game, is that potentially a focal point? How difficult is that? Where I know that if we get McDaniels, let's say 2-3 shots in a first quarter, then we know that potentially can measurably affect what happens the final 36 of the game.
I mean, matchups obviously matter. So if defensively you have an L on you, well, you have to attack it.
Right.
And generally, Edwards gets the better defensive players. Randall gets the good, bigger defensive players. So if there are isolation type moments, I can't recall them ever isolating Jaden McDaniels in an offensive play. He's more of an in the flow kind of guy.
Yep.
But I like that. For instance, like tomorrow night. All right. If you're in an open court racehorse basketball situation and something called Haywood Highsmith happens to be on Jaden McDaniels, well, then Anthony and Julius have to understand Jaden gets the ball first.
Are you looking at my fantasy basketball team here?
Well, no, I actually not. It's just, it's the Highsmith bit plays a lot for the Heat. And it seems like, he would be a match potentially, or maybe Bam Adebayo.
Well, that's what I was.
That's a good defensive player who guards players all over the court. And in fact, I hope he checks Jaden McDaniels. Because that'd
be a fun matchup.
Right. But see, that's what last night and the game against the second half against Philly, there's fool's gold to that. You can feel good about yourself. You can cash bets on prize picks. Your fantasy team can do well. But when we get to the rubber meeting the road of the reality of it, Miles Bridges could not care less about stopping Julius Randle.
Does not care.
Or Jaden McDaniels.
The team's awful.
Bam Adebayo, Haywood Highsmith, and whomever else. Well, despite having a losing record, the playoff bottom feeders in the Eastern Conference, it's ridiculous what their records are.
Yeah, the 10th place team is 14 games under 500 right now.
And Miami's like 3 or 4 or 5 under 500.
Yeah, 3 below, yeah.
Right.
They lost to Cleveland last night, maybe?
Yeah. But it's structure, it's organization, it's staff worthy. So like say you're in the NFL, you're hooking the Rams, who say they've had a bunch of injuries and they lost Stafford for a month and a half, but then he comes back, but they're not going to be a playoff team. But you go out there and you've won 6, 7, 8 in a row, and you're a 4.5 point, 5.5 point favorite on the road against a Rams team that's languishing. And then all of a sudden you're about a half quarter into it and you recognize, holy cow, these guys know how to play the game. I mean, they're in the right spots. They may not be that good, but they have structure.
Yeah.
They have cohesiveness. That lacked last night. That lacked against Philly. That will not lack Friday night against the Heat.
It's kind of impressive what they do, though. I mean, Slow-Mo's down there now. I get that. I don't know how they're still. I mean, Kevin Love is still impacting games, and he's doing it for Spoelstra. It is how they attack Bam Adebayo tomorrow night. That'll be kind of fun. I know Rudy's not in the mix. Mark Andrews, I mean, the team tried to trade him from Charlotte, and is it Mark Williams or Andrews? There we go. He couldn't pass a freaking physical.
Oh, Nurkic last night. Holy cow. No wonder nobody ever wants Nurkic.
But the entire thing tomorrow night, whatever we saw last night, is going to be the antithesis and or the opposite. When they're rolling out Alec Burks. They're rolling out Davion Mitchell. You mentioned Haywood Highsmith. They're rolling out a bunch of guys that you normally just don't game plan or care about when your team's going up against them.
Yeah.
They're all dogs. They're all organized, and they all work really well together. It's going to be a fun little Friday Night Lights matchup.
And the reason we go howling with the homies on like a Vikings football Sunday Wolves edition for a Thursday talking about a game on a Friday is because we only have 18 to play. The Clippers beat the red-hot Pistons last night. All right. Now, the Pistons were a little off their game, and Cade Cunningham, just tried to single-handedly carry this team to the finish line by himself, but they couldn't get by the Clippers. The Clippers are better than people think. It's when people will look at the hierarchy of the Western Conference and analyze which teams truly have the best opportunities to get to the NBA Finals. First and foremost, OKC is no bargain anymore, and I can't figure out why. SGA is unstoppable. Holmgren's in and out, but he's back. Hartenstein is good, not great. Jalen Williams, the shooter Jalen Williams, not the center, he's catching fire. So when I say they're no bargain, it's like I don't look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and say, all right, well, the whole thing may go through them, but I ain't tripping like the 27 Yankees have rolled out here. Shoot, the Wolves were shorthanded and found a way to come back from 25 and beat them. When you do things like that, well, that means that team has some vulnerability to it. Western Conference is wide open. The Clippers, when they get healthy, and if Kawhi Leonard is healthy, that's a team that's going to push people in ways that maybe they don't see now. So this whole thing is an absolute meat grinder.
Yeah.
Big win for the Clippers last night without Kawhi. They're one behind us in the play-in clip. We are a single percentage point behind the Golden State Warriors, who I believe are 9-1 since acquiring Jimmy Butler. All right, so now that thing is turned around. Jimmy's a bulldog. He knows how to win at a high level. Steph Curry's one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. Draymond Green complements them perfectly. So they got that MB3.
One more run?
So it might be. They had no chance. It was no more runs until they made that Jimmy trade. So now they got the bulldog, and we got to think about them.
I don't know why I'm fascinated by this, but it is going to be who wants to limp their way into the 10 spot more? The Suns that we just saw a few days ago or the Dallas Mavericks who, you honestly have to dig deep, call somebody, get insider information to know who's playing for the Dallas Mavericks right now.
Unbelievable.
They are a complete just train wreck disaster of an operation. All the injuries that have played into it.
I know.
But who's going to limp it? Who wants the 10 spot? They're playing hot potato to avoid it.
The general manager can't even sit in his regular seat at American Airlines Arena.
I always love that one.
Because rubes are all over him. And then they've thrown fans out for constantly and belligerently, and there probably were curse words involved. So therefore, if my man's cussing at somebody in a public setting like that, well, he needs to be eliminated.
Right.
There have been people who have lost their season tickets. What's his name? Nico
Harrison?
Yeah, something like that. There have been people who have had their season tickets stripped from them for yelling at him. But see, now the problem they're having, from what I understand, is he can't sit in his regular seat at games, which is like 8 rows behind the Mavericks bench, because people are yelling things. They can't figure out who it is, and fans aren't turning them in because they don't like the guy.
They're so pissed.
It's as bad as you're going to see with the chain reaction of things that have happened to the old Dallas Mavericks.
There might be some Mavs fans that aren't mad at taking their season tickets away.
Yeah.
Because after this NBA Finals run, they raised season ticket prices 10%.
I always love that one.
And then all of this has transpired.
Yeah. You need to be vulnerable. You need to have a vulnerability to you where you don't really care what others think because you know that you have the greater good in mind. And there's zero chance this is going to happen. But because the general manager has to be fired for this to happen, but it's kind of like it's like the final game of the season's fan appreciation night. I mean, this needs to be like an I'm sorry night. Like, we're sorry. You guys have been some of the greatest fans over decades of NBA play.
Yeah.
I mean, bring in Dirk.
And we failed.
Bring in Derek Harper. Bring in James Donaldson. Bring in, if Dorian Smith-Finney is hurt one night for the Lakers, bring him back just in case they miss him. And have some type of evening where you recognize, not that we made mistakes, because I'm not going to concede they made a mistake until we play out seasons and everything, because I got a lot of respect for Anthony Davis. But it just kind of we're sorry it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So those of you who jumped in here for the 10% ticket hike, we are going to give you 10% off your season tickets next year.
Ooh.
And for the 2025-2026, we're going to start them flat at this rate. And we just want to say thanks for sticking with us.
That's probably the smart play.
There's no chance.
There's no chance.
Because they're abacus transactional related executives who would be so freaking constipated over that. Like, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Sauce did it. Are you kidding me? That's not my fault. I never make mistakes.
There's a little
Nordo sucks.
Little CYA in that whole bit. There's no doubt about that. The crazy, I think it's Jeannie Buss. She was quoted yesterday, and I hope it's an accurate quote, that the reason that they traded AD, he was complaining about his spot. They weren't getting better. He didn't like the position on the court, the way he was being played. Yeah. And so they make the move. And now, I mean, with the injury and everything, they're already talking because of Kyrie's injury, he just might sit the rest of the season.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, this thing has imploded at a level I couldn't have imagined, even as a Wolves fan during the darkest of days.
I ain't going to spend any time looking this up, and it doesn't hit me quick twitch. But, I mean, this team was in the NBA Finals last year.
Yes, indeed.
This is as precipitous a fall from a hierarchy-type place to where they are now as I can remember really in any sport.
Well, so the question would be, and I wonder if it's happened more often in recent years because of, big threes, and I'm taking my talents to South Beach, et cetera. The idea that someone would win the title and then completely flame out of even a playoff conversation the very next year. Happens in the NFL, free agency, a lot of moving parts, tough to be at the top. That's why we were looking at this potential Chiefs three-peat as such a unicorn.
Yeah.
But in the NBA, the parity is so much less on a year-to-year basis. When you go to the finals, you are very good and typically at least competitive the next year.
Yeah.
How many times does it happen where a team goes to the finals and finishes 13th in the conference the next year?
Philly, with its fan base, always has potential to be the newest answer to this question. Because Philly wins the Super Bowl, but we're 3 months removed from Nick Sirianni nearly going into the crowd to fight one of his own Eagles fans who was yelling at him because things weren't going the right way. This is a team that won 8 in a row, and the wide receiver's ripping the quarterback because he ain't getting enough touches. So the potential is there,
right?
But this is bottom level right here with these maps. All right, there's more on this because these final 8 team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, if they can win this game against Miami on Friday, they should beat San Antonio on Sunday. Winning 3 in a row is their longest winning streak in a month. We got Rudy ramping up. The Wolves don't have Golden State or Houston left on the schedule, and we're chasing those teams. The next 8 are pivotal. Then they have a 5-game roadie near the end of the season. Could we be sitting on an 11-game winning streak? Go ahead and chuckle. And we'll unpack that a little bit. We'll unpack that a little later. Can you tell I'm calling a Wolves game on the radio Sunday night? I mean, I'm dialed.
You homer!
I'm dialed into this mug right now. Thank you, TimberTech. Thank you, TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes a lot of different and a lot of new today, which I happen to be enthralled with, including a bus bid around the corner with an old friend. We have a Golden Gophers women's hockey player joining us in the final segment of the show, and she is of the gritty variety. Nacho Lieber in the middle, and Bill Guerin. Bill Guerin, general manager for the Minnesota Wild, joins around 11 o'clock. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Howlin. Once again, thank you, TimberTech and TimberTech.com for the What's on Deck portion of the equation. Thank you for listening to 9 to noon. And as always, thank you for listening to FM 100.3 KFAN. you been?
Yo, what's up?
What's going on, brother? Hey, are you on a bus
Not
right?
much.
You on a bus right now?
No, I'm actually on the bench watching these Zambonis go round and round and looking at this box in the box thing across from me.
Mm-hmm.
Remembering this ugly guy that has a face for radio and not TV, sitting there putting $100 bills on the glass and seeing if we can put them in the hole.
Oh, wow. So, it's how the common threads of life will bring people together. For instance, it's 20 some odd years ago, yours truly with Dubers would call like a bus or a road morning skate and chat with Jordan Leopold, Johnny Pohl, Coach Don Lucia, and about hockey games coming up later that day or the next day. And lo and behold, here we are with Jordan Leopold, who spent a decade and a half in the NHL, and he's now an assistant coach for the Andover Huskies high school hockey team. And it just it just means that I have to say, how about those kids? How about those kids, man? I mean, no matter what happens today, you got a game here coming up in an hour and a half against Stillwater. But
yeah.
How about those kids, brother, at the XL Energy Center?
It's all about the kids. It's funny. You pull on the loading dock, and the kids are like, hey, have you ever been here before? Like, yeah, just a few times. But, anytime I get to come back into this building, it's special. We won a national championship here with the Gophers, got to play with the Wild. I'm happy for a bunch of high school kids that get to experience the big sheet with a bunch of fans in the stands and kind of get a little bit of that NHL experience because obviously there probably is very few of them that are going to get that opportunity going forward.
This is the bomb, man. It's Jordan Leopold, long-time card-carrying Covenant member and a friend of 9 to Noons. Jordan Leopold, he is an assistant coach with the Andover hockey team. Your son, Kyle, he's a forward on the team. You were a blue liner. He's a forward. How'd that happen?
Well, he was a blue liner, and then he just happened to be the fastest kid on the ice, so we put him at forward. But he's currently injured. He's been injured most of the year. He only played 8 games this year. He's got a broken vertebrae, so that part sucks. But he is our head student assistant manager today.
Right.
So he's trying to figure out what he's going to wear on the bench to make the hockey hair video or something like that. I don't know.
Did you watch any games yesterday?
I watched a couple of them.
Yeah. So my
Class A is a little different.
Talking about, I understand that, but the northern team, Northern Lights, Northern Lakes, whatever it's called, Mike Randolph's team. Well, it's like when they were introducing the players, they had a couple of players in like very bright suits that were on the bench, kind of looking like what the Joker would wear. And I thought that was cool.
No, that's not that. It's Dumb and Dumber. Come on.
Dumb and Dumber. Bro, you're right. I knew it, but I couldn't get there. Right. Well, so you saw it. So, are you guys doing something like that today?
Well, I told my son a week ago, I said, you need to get those suits, and that's what you got to do. And then those kids took the idea from me. So I'm going to be having a chat with them.
You're wound up right now. I've known you long enough, and we're close enough that I can say to Hockey Immortality, you're wound up right now, aren't you?
Well, I'm excited. Here's the deal. Like I've been able to play on the biggest stages in our hockey world, and I never got a chance to play at state high school hockey tournaments. So these kids kind of gave me a bucket list deal where I get to stand behind the bench and urge them to go give it their all.
Wow. And with your son Kyle, super sad about the vertebrae injury. But right out of the gate, as an assistant high school hockey coach for the first time in your life, yet a father, you're immediately in the meat grinder of consoling son, but also like giving coaching lessons on how we're going to get through this, and there's going to be there will be brighter days, right?
You ask my kids. I got 5 of them. They all think I coach them every day. I'm lecturing them all the time.
Right.
They get annoyed with Dad, but
right.
Everything is a life lesson, and this definitely is. I went through a lot during my career as far as injuries, so right. I can relate to what he's going through. It really sucks, but it is what it is, and you just deal with it.
These are high school kids, man, and so we're not going to get too deep into the woods here. But the goalie for Stillwater, Cal Conway, correct me if I'm wrong. He was on your team like last year, or was it this year? And he transferred.
Yes, I love those questions. That's awesome.
Well, I'm looking for veracity.
No, you're absolutely correct. He was at Andover High School until early November, and then transferred and moved over to Stillwater. That's I don't know how that became about, but it is what it is. And, we happen to have two really good goalies at the time, and gave an opportunity to our other goalie, and he's ran with it and played really well. And he probably deserves more accolades than he's got this year. And got us here. We started a year out 0-9. I mean, when you talk about 0-9, we played the Minnetonkas of the world. We played, Shakopee, the teams that are here, the big teams, and couldn't find a way to win. And how do you take a bunch of high school kids and go, hey, stay with it, boys. We're gonna maybe make it to state. Like, yeah, right.
Hold on.
And then we're here.
Cool. Well, I mean, two things here. I mean, you're an elite playing and now an elite coaching mind. So given the goaltender for the adversary played with you guys recently, I mean, this seriously is a coaching point, I think, from afar, in that, guys, you can't be too wound up simply because you may be pissed off at something or trying, like you're trying so hard to show up somebody, then you make mistakes. You know what I mean?
Well, I get it. I mean, you're looking at 20 plus kids on our team that are dedicated to doing what they're doing. And tell you what, I mean, when I got traded, playing at the highest level, and then I had to go back and play against my foes, that was one of the hardest things I had to do. I mean, it really was, because you're sitting there like, oh God, I don't want to go battle against these guys. And well, how do they feel about me? How this and that? So that can weigh on your mind. And it's one of those things where these guys are dealing with this adversity at a really young age, being in high school, but on the biggest stage. And, like I say, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is part of the game and part of the politics of hockey and what we're dealing with. But, we're out here to win a game. And really, that's why we're down here, not just for the experience. We want to win, and we're going to do whatever we can to make that happen.
It's 11 a.m. It's the first game today. Shakopee and STA after you with the double A portion of the equation. What do you like about coaching? What are some things you're liking about coaching these kids?
I think I'm able to give them a pretty unique perspective, being at that top level and growing up where they did. And I didn't have success, through youth and high school to have the opportunity that these guys got. So just to be able to give them little tips and understand when I'm overcoaching, undercoaching. I mean, you got to be able to read kids, and that's the biggest thing, and then be able to adapt. And I think I did that throughout my career, and now I'm learning how to do it as a coach, which is obviously a challenge, but it's fun. And it's also nice to see a lot of the people that I used to see. Across from the bench from me today is Greg Zanin, their head coach. He's a former NHL guy.
Yeah.
Thomas Vanek is over there, former teammate of mine, neighbor, played with him in Buffalo. I mean, it's just like kind of old home week. Matt Cullen's here this week. We got Josh Harding. He's here with Edina.
Jeff
Panzer. We got a lot of NHL guys involved, so it's pretty cool.
And Adam Hauser. How you like me now?
Yeah.
Adam Hauser.
I just saw him. I saw him last night at the banquet. Yep, got to say hi to him. And
wow.
It's always nice to see old teammates, and he's one of my classmates and a champion as well.
But I mean, Leo, this whole I mean, you got to get the weird out of the equation for this whole thing today. The game's in an hour and 15 minutes, and here's what I mean. We talked about the goaltender for Stillwater. All right, so we put that to bed, and that is legitimately weird, and it's emotional. But now, I mean, you and Thomas Vanek are friends, man, and now you're going against him, and you're going against his kid today. That's weird.
Well, I mean, that's the great state we live in. We were able to produce decent hockey players and have kids get the opportunity to share this stage. Thomas didn't coach for at least at the high school level for a few years, and then a lot like me had a kid coming up and goes, "Hey, you know what? I'll try this out," and he ends up really liking it, and I do too. I gave him a big hug yesterday, even in front of his teammates and in front of ours. They're like, "What the heck are you guys doing?" Like, guys, this is hockey for you. We put everything aside when we go to compete, and we do our best for our team. At the end of the game, we're going to shake hands and congratulate one another on a good battle.
Well, it's again, to hearken or to go back a couple of decades to like the bus calls. How about them kids, Leo and Johnny Pohl? I mean, in the ladies' game, in the girls' game, Johnny and Chrissy Pohl coached Hill Murray to a state championship 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, titles with former Gophers are popping up all over the place.
Well, former Gophers, former alumni, Hall of Famers, whatever you want to call it. Chrissy's an elite hockey mind as it is. I mean, this is a person that's probably the best best natural athlete female to come out of our state ever. So for her to be able to get kids to so-called come to Hill Murray and participate at a high level, it's great. And then to watch his kids alone and his and her kids alone, be at that elite level is something special too.
Two more. Jordan Leopold, assistant coach for the Andover Huskies hockey team. They play at 11 a.m. against Stillwater. Leo's on the bench at the X right now doing his own version of Vox in the Box, which is also weird. So when you and the staff, and you're an assistant coach, when you guys meet with the refs, I don't know, like an hour before the game, like what are high school conversations like between staffs and officials?
You know what? I've never had a problem. At least in Andover we haven't, but a couple of my ex-teammates as well that have coached against these Stillwater guys say, hey, watch out for Van and Zan yelling at the refs. So maybe we can use that to our advantage. But no, these referees come in the room before just to kind of lay the law down with the kids. No pushing, shoving after the whistles. Put on a good show. We don't want to call penalties, but if we do, just shut your mouth and go to the box. Just basic stuff. They're kids, and I try to explain to my kids all the time that I've never seen a referee take his call back. So just shut your mouth and go to the box, serve your time, and get free, like they said in Slapshot.
Hey, let's pretend in closing this is beyond the pond, and I'm like analyzing every game in hardcore fashion. After you guys is Shakopee and St. Thomas Academy, and I know Abbott's listening right now. You guys played Shakopee earlier in the season. It was a very tightly contested game, late December. Shakopee, first tournament appearance ever. What do you think of Shakopee? How good is that squad?
Shakopee was one of my big surprises earlier in the year. We played them, second, third game of the season, and they outplayed us. Simply put. They are very talented. They look like they're playing with a mission. They got one of the best players in a kid by the name of Simpson. I think he's the best player that we've seen, going through all these other teams. But, man, you never know. You get in these one-and-dones. You even look at us, 25 years ago at the U, being down here at the X. College hockey one-and-dones. You never know. It's not always the best team that wins. It's the team that's the hottest and has the best goaltending. So you never know, and that's what we're kind of preaching to our kids. Like, be patient. Take it as dumb as it sounds, one shift at a time, but you're not going to be able to change the course of a game in a matter of a couple minutes. It's going to be the long haul. If the Andover Huskies win the AA state championship, does that mean a free team party at Mississippi Gardens? Well, funny you bring that up. Hell yeah. Are you kidding?
You should have it there even if you don't win it.
Yeah, well, it's either that or at my barn up in Andover, one of the two. So we're sitting pretty good. We have a great community up there. We got some bars and restaurants that would love to host us too. But we don't want to put the cart before the horse.
I got you.
Yeah. So we're gonna give it our best today. Yeah,
and we'll be pulling for you from afar. Hey, if you get a chance, come in studio next week, okay? And let's catch up.
Will do. Thanks for the invite.
All right, see you, Leo.
All right, see you, buddy.
That's Jordan Leopold, assistant coach for the Andover Huskies. Wow, man, this is so crazy. It's like some people look at all these names and everything. It's like, oh, good girl, it makes me feel old. No, it makes me feel alive to see all these names. Johnny Pohl, and Chrissy Wendell, but now Chrissy Pohl, Thomas Vanek, Adam Hauser, Jeff Panzer, Jordan Leopold, Thomas Vanek. This is just fantastic. Best of luck to all these dads with their kids. And the state high school hockey tournament continues today at 11 a.m. It's Leo's Andover Huskies versus Stillwater. And we'll do some listen-ins to that if we have some time. It's 9:49. You're listening to 9 to Noon on KFAN.
Hey, PA, I know there's a lot of football conversation around the corner with Ben Lieber. Friday feast tomorrow. And I think we've been mostly all over it in terms of some of these deals that are coming out, people being released. And some of this might impact the Minnesota Vikings. Tons of cash, more than they've had in many years, limited draft picks. We're looking for the Purple to be early and active starting Monday when that legal tampering period begins. But I wanted to hit you with this little nugget that I saw yesterday afternoon. Mm-hmm. This is from ProFootballTalk.com. Commanders, via this report, Commanders will release Jonathan Allen.
Oh, wow.
If they cannot find a trade partner. So I don't have all of his financials in front of me in terms of what's left on that deal and what might then mitigate potential trade opportunities, currency back and forth, etc.
Yeah.
But we know that they just did the trade with Deebo Samuel. They're going to have to pay Deebo, and that's going to cost money. And so maybe Jonathan Allen is part of that then money in, money out scenario. If they release Jonathan Allen and he's free to sign with any team, he's 29 versus maybe our love for him 4 or 5 years ago when they were dream weaving with Chase Young and what that defensive front could look like, Matt Ioannidis, and how good that could have been, even though it never materialized.
Yeah.
Jonathan Allen, former first rounder out of Bama, he's a pretty damn good player, and he might be available, PA.
Yeah, I would first and foremost need to know, why did he get loud publicly that he wanted to leave Washington? Because that's what started this. Next, why are they dead set on letting him leave? So I just haven't. Now, his agent is Blake Barrett's, who we happen to know quite well.
Yeah.
I mean, we could cold call Institute for Athletes right now and probably get his agent.
I think we probably could,
ask, hey, Blake, what's going on, man? Any chance you've been talking to Kwesi lately? But I just, I'll put some time in after the radio show today to read into that a little bit. Adam Schefter with ESPN joins 9 to noon tomorrow at about 10 o'clock. We can slide that into the conversation with Adam. But Daron Payne is the identity of that defense. Then they traded for Marshawn Lattimore. They had Jeremy Chin. He's set to hit free agency. Jonathan Allen has always been good. I haven't looked at Jonathan Allen's game logs since the, or really a statistical wherewithal since the Vikings played Washington. But Jonathan Allen has always been known as part of a wonderful defensive tackle situation Washington had. I just wonder why Dan Quinn, who's of the defensive mindset, is cool splitting that up. So that would bear some a little bit of work into it. But if you tell me that you can get Jonathan Allen, via, specifically if he gets cut. Like Devontae Adams can sign with anybody now. If they cut Jonathan Allen before Monday, he can sign with anybody he wants.
That is correct. And I don't think he has to wait until Monday either.
No, come on in here. Yeah, kitty.
Yeah, they're going to save $16 million if they make that move.
Oh, there we go.
So that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I know they already have a ton of cash.
You're looking at his stat head right now?
But they do have. Like,
did he play all the games last year?
Well, he played 8. So we need to find out.
Problem there.
Well, we need to find out what that injury was. But the thing that I've been reading,
sometimes all that's gold is not glittering.
But they inquired potentially even back in 2023 trying to figure out this trade. Mm-hmm. So I don't think this is necessarily 2024 injury based as much as it is that this thing was always going to come to an end.
Yeah.
And more speculation probably down the road on this. But if you remember. You remember that dust-up that he and Daron Payne had with each other on the sideline a couple of years ago?
Yes.
And maybe that was just frustration boiling over. They played together for a long time.
Oh, wait, no, I'm mixing that up with when Deebo Samuel punched the rookie kicker.
I always love that
in San Francisco, Moody. That's right.
Or was it Mecole Hardman going after, was it Patrick Mahomes? He was doing that on the sideline with the Chiefs? No, but
yeah, or was it Dalton Reisner and Brett Rippon when they were in Denver?
I always love that.
Or was it Kirk Cousins shoving Mike Zimmer?
Friendships have disintegrated.
Absolutely. But Jonathan Allen, the name sounds good. The stats look good.
Yep.
But maybe somebody to keep in your head as this thing goes forward.
Yep, there's a lot. Joey Bosa was cut. Chargers cut Joey Bosa. Tyler Lockett was cut by the Seattle Seahawks, triggering a chain reaction. He was cut. 4 seconds later, DK Metcalf asked to be traded. Oh, my God. What a world. This is unbelievable. It's happening now. And I ain't kidding you. Lockett gets cut. Metcalf says trade me. That sucks.
Yeah.
It's my dog. So Ben Lieber, our beloved Nacho, an elite football mime, he'll join us in studio around the corner to chat about a lot of things percolating in the National Football League on your home for National Football League coverage, FM 100.3 KFAN.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.